to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, and declare all members of council present, with the exception of Councillor Hiltz is not here. Have we had any notification from him? No? Okay. All right, I'll now read the land acknowledgement. The municipality of the County of Kings is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral, unceded, and current territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. The municipality of the County of Kings is a neighbor to Annapolis Valley First Nation and Glooscap First Nation, as well as a diverse urban and rural indigenous population. We are all treaty people and commit to upholding the peace and friendship treaties and working towards reconciliation in all areas of the municipality. We have an agenda in front of you, Council, and is there any additions anyone would like to make to the agenda? No? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Deputy Mayor McPherson. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Okay, motion carried. At this time, I would ask if there is any member of council who wish to declare a conflict of interest related to any of the items on the agenda today. Councillor Sappin? Okay. All right, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of June 16th, 2026. Were there any errors or omissions in the minutes of June 16th, 2026? Would somebody like to move the approval of those minutes, please? Moved by Councillor Harding, second by Councillor Sappington. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. Okay, I want to welcome everyone, and we have a couple of presentations this morning. And our first presentation is from the Valley Wren Tourism and Infrastructure and Gaps Analysis Finding. And Genevieve Allen Hearn will be presenting. Welcome, Genevieve.
Do I advance using this? Okay. Thank you. I've got my 10-minute timer here, which I'll turn on. Thank you for having me present for you today. I really appreciate being here. My name is Genevieve Allen Hearn. I am with the Valley Wren, and I've been working for the last 2 years with a tourism committee. And we have been, just a quick snapshot of what we've been up to. We have been advancing the objectives from the tourism strategy. So some of you may have been around when this tourism strategy took place. It was a consultation process through 2020 to 2023, guided by Richard Innes, who's a leader in tourism development in Canada. So this would have been last election cycle, so I recognize that some of you might not have been around for that, but I know that some of you were and might have participated in one of the 27 consultations that happened throughout those years. So this was an ACOA funded and designed process through the Strategic Tourism and for Areas and Regions strategy process. And this strategic plan gives us the what and the who and the why of tourism development in our region, but it doesn't really give us the how, because what we don't have is an entity that works on tourism development for the region. This is something that we have before through the Evangeline Trails Tourism Association, through Southwest Nova Destination, but we haven't for over a decade. So there really was nobody to implement what was in the strategy and move the strategy forward. So that's where Valley Wren comes in. We've been working for the last 2 years on sector development with tourism leaders. And one major thing that we've been working on is a recommendation on how we get a destination management and marketing organization for our region. So you'll see this DMMO funding model report. Every single one of you should have received a physical copy of this, as well as a link to a virtual copy. And we presented these findings at a joint council session in September. What we're doing now is transitioning over to a tourism society that will be industry-led. So Valley Wren is wrapping up our role in all of this, and it will be then led by the tourism industry. And so you will be invited to a launch to that tourism society in early fall. Just so we're all on the same page of what a DMMO is, it's a collaborative industry-led body that brands and markets the region as a destination, manages the visitor experience and tourism assets, and connects municipalities, businesses, and communities with the goal of growing tourism sustainably. So this is nothing new. It actually exists across the province, across Atlantic Canada, and across the country. We are actually one of the only regions that does not have a DMMO or tourism association in the province. So for a quick little journey across the province, we have Destination Cape Breton, we've got Yarmouth Acadia Shores Tourism Association, Nova Scotia's South Shore Tourism Association, Digby Area Tourism Association, Coastal Nova Scotia, which is Eastern Shore, Explore Central, which is Truro Colchester, and Destination Halifax, but we have nothing here for the Annapolis Valley. And just to illustrate why regional support of tourism is important and that we don't do this in a siloed way, we don't do this county by county. This is a story of when I took a walk through Kentville a few weeks ago, and I saw a number of bikes outside of Wheelhouse Coffee. And I thought, I'm gonna go in and see what's going on here. And I met this lovely group of people called Tour de Friends. And these folks are from Ontario, and they bike rails to trails across Canada. And then they rate them, and it's pretty newsworthy. They do news articles about this. And here's an article, one sec. An article in the Toronto Star, where they talked about their trip last year in PEI doing the Confederation Trail. Now they were biking from Annapolis Royal, and they were stopping in Kentville, and they're heading back. And I said, oh, aren't you gonna finish the Harvest Moon Trail and go all the way to Wolfville and Grand Pre? And they said, you know, that was our plan, but the trail was so poor, the conditions were so poor in Annapolis County, we can't make it all the way and get back to Annapolis Royal on time for dawn. So this is a really great example of how what happens in Annapolis County affects Kings County, what happens in West Hants affects Kings County, and vice versa. We have to be cooperating together to make sure that we work together as a single destination, because people come and they visit the Annapolis Valley. They don't come and visit Kings County. They don't come and visit Annapolis County. They are here to see the Annapolis Valley. So let's get into tourism infrastructure and services gaps analysis, which is why I'm here today. So this was a deliverable that we were tasked with during the strategic process, and what we heard from council members was, we don't know how to support the tourism industry unless we know what they need. And so we received funding from ACOA to do a gaps analysis with the consultant 21 FSP. The purpose was to understand growth opportunities in the Annapolis Valley's tourism sector, to be used as a planning tool, and so this is where you come in, for informing infrastructure planning, capital budgets, and asset management, and to be used as an evidence-based investment tool, so that's where the industry comes in, to support funding requests and advocacy for the tourism sector. So during this process, we had 198 respondents to an online survey. We interviewed 34 operators and municipal staff. We had 40 people engage in our validation sessions, and there were 27 in-person site visits. And these in-person site visits was kind of like a secret shopper that went through the valley, and they went to tourism spots across the valley, and then they took memo notes on, was it easy to find? Could you find it online? Was it bookable? Was it accessible? Was there parking? Was there cell service? Those sort of things. So it's really interesting to look at the findings that we have through this gaps analysis survey, which was mostly with operators and residents, and compare that to another piece of research that we did, which was the Voice of Visitors survey, where we interviewed surveyed 778 people who had visited the Annapolis Valley in the last few years. And you'll see a lot of overlap in the findings, but you'll also see a little bit of mismatch. And I think this is kind of where the research becomes really interesting, because you can see that most operators, residents, and visitors agree that the major draw here is our fundy tides and our natural landscapes. But then operators and residents feel like the number 2 draw is our food and wine, when actually that shows up quite low for visitors. So this tells us locally, we don't really need to be advertising or marketing our food and wine, but outside of our region, we really do. We have a lot of work still to do. Okay, really quickly, this is what showed up during our validation sessions. So they looked at what people identified as gaps, and then they prioritized them as most urgent and least urgent. The most urgent thing that showed up during these validation sessions is that we have no unified brand or destination marketing body, which is exactly what was in our tourism strategy 3 years ago. So it's still very much relevant. I know this is hard to see, but what you'll see in the report, and this report will be giving to you in the next couple weeks, is a prioritization gaps map. So this is a really great visualization of where the priorities are for the gaps that were identified. It shows whether it's high visitor experience impact or low, and whether it involves a lot of public sector investment, private sector investment, or somewhere in the middle. You can see a lot of the dots are in the middle. It requires work from private and public sector. But if we look at that top right quadrant, that is high visitor experience impact and high public sector lead. So that's where you'll find things like tourism funding, wayfinding and signage, self-service and digital connectivity, transportation. Those are some of the things that will require a lot of public sector investment. Now this only tells you part of the story. This tells you the gaps, but we need to also match that with the opportunities, and that's where our asset dashboard comes in. So this is just a screenshot of an asset dashboard that you will be receiving. But this is a really powerful tool because you can isolate by county and by communities, and will tell you what's the visitor readiness mark for every single asset, and there's 468 tourism assets on this list. Where are our event venues? Where are our family-friendly assets? Where are arts and creative? There we go. What is open year-round? Where are accommodations? What's accessible? It gives you a lot of information there. So what you can do is, when you see that a high need is, say, wayfinding and signage, that doesn't necessarily mean you need signage everywhere. What you need to do is look at where the clusters are and focus on those. I know I'm at my 10 minutes, but I'll just let you know there's also going to be a set of recommendations in this report. I won't drill down into those now. And that's it. Okay. I tried my best.
You did just fine. If you want to go back to those recommendations, we'll give you an extra minute there. Yeah.
Okay. So this will be explained further in the report, but what you'll see is one of the major things that came up time and time again is lack of accommodations variety. And I think that you will probably hear this in your next presentation, that there are some accommodation deserts, and sometimes those occur where you actually have a lot of event venues and where you have your recreation. And so Berwick is a great example of this. There's one Airbnb in Berwick, and that is it. There's nowhere for people to stay, and that's preventing us from bidding on large events. It's really hard to be a major events and conference destination when you don't have a lot of accommodation options, especially branded hotels. This is something that will take both public and private efforts in order to attract a developer for a hotel. I talked a bit about wayfinding and signage, DMMO. That's going to take funding from municipalities. And then, you know, the other ones are more of a private industry recommendation, so I won't get into those right now. Hopefully that helps a bit.
Yes. Great. Well, thanks, Genevieve. And before I go to questions, I see you got a couple other people with you. Would you like to introduce them?
Sure. Behind me is Emily Boucher, so she's the CEO of Valley Wren. I'm sure many of you have met her. And we've got David Hobble. So David has been actually along this whole journey on the steering committee during the STAR strategy, and then also on our implementation committee. And then he will be a founding board member of the Tourism Society. So David runs the Magic Winery Bus, and if you haven't taken a trip on that winery bus, it's a must-do.
Okay. All right. Are you ready for a few questions?
Sure.
All right. We'll go to Councillor Lutz first.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, thank you for your presentation this morning. I just have a quick question. So when I see all the other regions have something and we don't, it's hard not to cringe and feel behind. So, you know, I think it's important that this work is being done. So thank you and the Valley Wren for the work that's being done on this. So my question is, for the municipality to assist in these efforts, and I may be getting ahead of myself here, but is this something that you see as sort of project-based so that the group would apply to our existing grant programs, for example, to receive funding in that way for things like signage or, you know, projects or events, those types of things? Or in terms of funding, is it more something you see as like a year over year, this becomes a core part of like how we fund the Valley Wren, or the group applies for like year over year funding?
Right.
What do you see the future funding requests look like? Not necessarily amounts, but like what do they look like?
Well, so for core funding for a DMMO, what we recommended was a marketing levy. And so you have those recommendations, and now it's really up to municipal staff to then make a recommendation to council. For project-based funding, there is project-based funding through ACOA and other programs, and so I think that would be a year-over-year sort of thing. It's also something where you can just kind of flag it for future investments. So one great example is you can look at the asset dashboard and see what is open year-round. And so when you see that a gap is safe road conditions during the winter, well, most of the tourism assets are in towns, and they have pretty good snow removal. There's really only a few outliers outside of towns that are open year-round, and Salt Air Spa is a great example. So you can flag that and say, we need to make sure that the snow removal going to that tourism asset makes it safe for visitors to get there. Another example is you can see that there's agritourism clusters. So Stars Point Loop is an example, or Gaspereau. So you could flag that next time we pave those roads, widen those shoulders a little bit, because we know that cyclists love to bike to agricultural assets.
Okay. All right. Deputy Mayor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, it's certainly challenging to put a 2-hour presentation into 10 minutes. I did have the pleasure of attending your workshop and presentation on this at Kingstack about a month ago. My question is, and looking at the other pieces, are parts of the province that do have a DMMO, what do you anticipate generally would be the impact of a DMMO on tourism in the Annapolis Valley?
So part of the DMMO is to reduce the friction of a visitor journey. So it starts with before you even arrive. How are people learning about what is available in the region? Those pre-planning trip tools are really important, and what we're finding is that we get a lot of day trippers, but we're missing out on those overnight visitors. And people are coming here to see the tides and then learning that we have these wineries and these like farm to table experiences and things. So getting that to people way ahead of time so that they say, oh, it's actually worth it to spend a night or 2 or 3 or stay a whole week in the valley rather than treating it like a day trip destination. That's really important. But then being able to collaborate regionally, not seeing ourselves defined by borders. So the Harvest Moon Trail is a really great example of that, making sure that we understand what our assets are and that we are developing them to a really high standard so that people have a good experience here, and then they're gonna review us well, and they're gonna come back and they're gonna tell people.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Genevieve. And at this time, I would ask if I could get a motion to receive the briefing, please. Moved by Councillor Hilt, second by Councillor Gates. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Okay, motion carried. All right, well, again, thank you. And our next presentation will be from the Maritime Hockey League, Tourism and Economic Impact, and we have Mr. Matt Moore will be presenting. Morning, Mr. Moore, and
Morning.
maybe I'll start out in the beginning. You can maybe this time I'll introduce the partners you brought with you too, so that we, rather than at the end.
All right. Thanks for having me here today, Mayor and Council. I almost seems like it's pre-planned for me to present after the Valley Ren, and great job to the team here behind us. I also want to introduce my colleagues here, Graham Baxter, who I think you all know quite well in the area, and Jesse as well, the new head coach and general manager for the Valley Wildcats. I'll start by sharing again, Genevieve, great presentation. I've been fortunate to wear multiple hats over my 20-year career. So I've worked in municipal government myself for 20 years and still do. I'm actually the CEO for the other Kings County and the Maritimes over in New Brunswick in the greater Sussex region. But my passion has always been sport development, economic development, destination marketing, and hockey. So Graham and the board of directors gave me this great opportunity to lead the Maritime Hockey League through a bit of a transition from at a national level as well as a local level. And we're here today celebrating 60 years of junior A hockey in the Maritimes. So we're a long-lasting league. Correct me if I'm wrong in my history, Graham, but I think it's about 14 years the Valley Wildcats have been operating in the region. And their lineage of the Valley Wildcats goes back about 39 years between the same franchises operating in Halifax and operating and even in Antigonish, I think it was. But today I'm not here to talk about hockey. I could talk about hockey for days and days and days, and I know I have 10 minutes. Today I want to talk about community development, tourism, and economic impact, as well as destination marketing through the sport of hockey. So the MHL has a philosophy, a play here, stay here philosophy, and Valley offers an exceptional, I'm going to call it an ecosystem, to offer players a very positive pathway. So young players at a young age of 16 years old now can set their 8-year plan on where they want to play the game, and to be able to keep kids in the Maritimes, and then also invite young players from outside the region into a place like Valley. It's a great opportunity to drive people attraction. And there's lots of great stories. I know Jesse has one himself. He's moved to the area, built a home, brought his spouse who's a nurse with him. I've got great friends in the Truro area that played junior A hockey, went on to medical school, came back home from the U.S. and opened up a family practice. So there's lots of those hidden stories that the Maritime Hockey League is going to focus our efforts a lot more in sharing. But to get back to kind of the nuts and bolts of the economic impacts and the figures around the Maritime Hockey League. So we have 12 incredibly strong franchises and strong venues across the Maritimes. Combined, we actually led the country in attendance, so 350,000 fans walked through our arenas last season. And I say led the country. There's 9 other junior A leagues in Canada, and we led strongly in attendance. We actually hosted a national championship in Summerside this past season, where there was $3 million in economic impact generated just through hosting that championship and all the great exposure that goes with. So with 350 fans coming into our facilities, that represents 15 million economic impact combined. So again, as a regional initiative in the Maritimes, about 15 million. Individual franchises are measured to have about a $1.5 million economic impact. Most of our franchises, their own operating budgets are around $700,000 to $800,000 a year, and those funds are spent locally, and as you know, they create employment, they create opportunities for families to come out and enjoy the games. So why am I here, and why does the MHL matter to a municipality? So again, it's more than a sports league. And I think, again, coming up here after the Valley Wren, it seems like it was pre-planned, but I swear it wasn't. The MHL is a driver for economic development and tourism, and I like to say it's a driver for economic development and tourism just in a hockey jersey. And I've always been involved in sports, and as an athlete growing up, I've got great memories of coming and playing ball and playing hockey in the area. And for me, that's the identity of a lot of the regions across Canada and across the Maritimes, is their home team. So naturally I hear Berwick, I hear Wolfville, I think, oh, that's Wildcat country, or that's Axemen country. So I think it's important. It's hard to measure the value of that, but I think it's important to always remember that community pride and the sense of belongingness that comes with having an MHL franchise. It also develops young leaders. A lot of young players come to the MHL at such a young age. They haven't always developed the leadership skills that they're going to carry on for the rest of their life. So we pride ourselves in having great leaders like Jesse here. For some players, they have not even had employment yet before they arrive to a community, and they're living with a billet family, and they are in a foreign school and making new friends. So it's our responsibility as a league and responsibility as a community to welcome them and set them up for success. And it's really not about what happens on the ice. We want to make sure they have positive playing experience and maybe have an opportunity to win a championship and pursue the sport, but it's about building responsible and respectful young people, and we set them up for future careers. It's not about making the NHL. There's probably less than 1% of our players that'll even play pro hockey. It's about equipping our players to be respectful men and to make it hopefully into post-secondary schools so they can further their education. It also is a great driver for our arenas. So I think many of you know, junior A hockey, there's a bit of ebb and flow across the country. There's some facilities where you may see 80 fans in the stands, and that may be an organization that's in Toronto where there's so much competition, there's so much other sport and entertainment opportunities to experience. And then you have franchises like Summerside Capitals or the Edmonton Blizzard, and they're selling out their venues every night with nearly 3,000 fans. And I think there's so much potential here in the Valley region, and I'm confident this is going to be the year. There's going to be a few more W's in the standings, and I think that'll naturally start to create a bit more excitement in the community. I also want to emphasize, by having a junior A franchise, it's a bit of a platform for charitable organizations. So I'm sure you've all been to games, and there's Pink in the Rink initiatives, and there's food security opportunities to bring in some non-perishable food items to the gate. So there's so much more when you start peeling back the curtain of Maritime Junior Hockey League, and you see the impacts it makes in communities. Again, I like to think of the MHL as a vehicle for people attraction. So it's not just the 26 home games and the weekend of our local communities coming out and cheering on their home team. It's when you look at the full season, 26 games, 26 visiting tour buses coming to our community staying in our hotels, having a few meals. And then when you look at it from a larger kind of global view and say, wow, if I had an opportunity to play junior hockey in a community, maybe I met my spouse there, or maybe that inspired me to move back here and start a career in this community. So there's a lot of long-lasting impacts and strong legacies from playing in the Maritime Junior Hockey League. And we have 60 years of history and a lot of stories to tell, and we just started doing that this season. This is my second year as the commissioner of the Junior League, and my background being event tourism and destination marketing, I said, wow, we have so many inspiring stories of players that not only gave to the game, but also players that moved on, or coaches that moved on to the National Hockey League or more. And it was less than a month ago we celebrated our first Maritime Hockey League annual gala, and we invited Troy Ryan. I'm not sure if there's hockey fans in the area, but Troy Ryan was the national team coach for the women's program for about 15 years, and he started coaching in the Maritime Junior League. So for a guy like me with 4 young daughters that could care less about hockey until they see the national women's program and the PWHL hit the ice, that's pretty powerful stuff. So last month we brought Troy back. We had our MHL player draft in Camelton, the Camelton-Restigouche area. We filled the hotels for 4 nights and generated about $350,000 in economic impact for that community. And it came with a $25,000 host fee for that local region. That's a region that is similar to the role, the other hat I wear, it's a regional service commission. So it's this collective of villages and towns that are working together to create opportunities for provide services for the region, and they have that advantage of pooling funds and drawing from other resources. And I don't think they quite have an established DMO in their region yet either, like Genevieve had mentioned here, but they found a way to invest a $25,000 host fee and win a competitive bid process to attract the Maritime Hockey League to Camelton. And a lot of the governors, probably including Graham, said, really, Camelton? We have to drive 7 hours to Camelton? And I said, yeah, it's their 30th anniversary for junior A hockey as well. They hosted the Canada Games there. They've gone through a massive restructuring of how they operate their arena. I think now's the time to go to Camelton and make a positive impact. So that occurred, and we're just now ready to release our bid documents for the MHL All-Star Game, as well as the 2027 MHL Player Draft. And I put together a short little video. We'll see if technology works for us. But again, the core message that I wanted to leave with you today is the MHL is much more than just the game that you see on the ice on a Saturday night. It makes deep impacts in community, and oddly enough, I'm following Genevieve's presentation about economic impact, tourism development, and destination marketing, so it fits in quite well as an opportunity that your teams may want to consider. So bear with me on this video. And this is just Eastlink TV's our broadcast partner, so they put together a highlight reel for us that I could show you today, and you can kind of see some of the natural beauty that they captured from our experience in Camelton-Restigouche.
Nestled in the Appalachian Uplands, here we are on the banks of the Restigouche River in Campbellton. So many mountain ranges around us as 12 teams looking to reach the summit of the Maritime Hockey League. And the start to that pursuit begins at the draft. Welcome inside the Campbellton Memorial Rink. It is the Maritime Hockey League draft. The first 2 rounds live on Eastlink Community TV. And welcome to the desk.
It's now my pleasure to officially open the Maritime Hockey League draft presented by McDonald's Canada.
With the first overall selection in the 2026 MHL entry draft, the Beige Valley Wildcats are proud to select from New Maryland, New Brunswick, and the Fredericton Cops, Alexander Peterson.
Tell me how it feels to be the first name called here at the MHL draft.
I'm honestly lost for words. Feels amazing. I've heard a lot of great things about this place, and just to be drafted by this great organization, it's truly an honor.
And a little bit of chicken fried, a cold beer on a Friday night.
Bonjour, Campbellton. Welcome to the Maritime Hockey League Alumni Gala. Thank you all. I know many of you were in attendance this afternoon at our player draft, and it was a great glimpse into the future of what the Maritime Hockey League represents. And tonight we're going to celebrate our past and the deep history that we have as a 60-year-old league.
I'm deeply honored to be recognized by the Maritime Hockey League and humbled to be able to do this in Campbellton. Back in 2013, this community welcomed me, challenged me, and helped me grow.
Final thoughts here from you, bud.
Mavs, first time up in Campbellton. I've driven through, but I've never stopped by, and I'm glad this time I got the chance to spend a couple days here in Campbellton with the crew, with the guys from the MHL, and everybody here. Thank you, and it's been a wonderful time.
Well, I want to thank everyone from the Maritime Hockey League who made this experience so much fun, and for all of us from Eastlink Community TV.
Great. Thank you. I'm sure I passed my 10 minutes. Apologize.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moore. And before we get into any questions, I'd probably say they probably got the right guy who's passionate and enthusiastic to head up the league. So wish you well in your new job, and want to welcome Jesse to the area. And last but certainly not least, I think that a great congratulations should go out to Mr. Baxter and his family for their dedication and commitment for the last 14 or 15 years of keeping this franchise going. I'm sure there's probably times, Graham, when it would have been easier to pack it in than move forward, but your dedication has been wonderful, and helped a lot of young hockey players, and a lot of inspiration to the area. So we certainly appreciate having you here. Is there anyone have any questions to Matt on his presentation? Councillor Sappington.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions. First one was, you referenced the MHL helping to create respectful men. I was wondering about girls and women. Do you have
Absolutely.
girls and women?
We've been fortunate to have a couple of females play in the Maritime Hockey League, a couple goaltenders actually, one who's actually joined the Canadian national team, so we certainly celebrate her. And last season we again, a father of four, we celebrated the female staff who were involved in the league as well. We have a variety of athletic therapists and physiotherapists that are part of the league, as well as an official that competed in the Olympic Games. I shouldn't say competed, officiated in the Olympic Games last year.
Wonderful. So, forgive me, I don't know much about the MHL. So it's a co-ed team?
No, it's a men's league. I should say men's league. There are females who have competed, have been drafted and selected to be rostered on with teams. It is what they call a Tier 2 league in Canada. So it is the development league in order to play for, say, the Halifax Mooseheads or the Moncton Wildcats. So it's that league where there's players that are maybe not quite there in their skill set or in their physical development that'll start in our league and then move on to the queue. Or it's for players who just want to choose a different pathway, maybe stay closer to home and pursue post-secondary education and have plans to enroll, when they turn 18 into university. So.
But girls can participate if they want to.
You'd have to make the team. Mm-hmm. So, and not to slight on that, but there is a draft process, and just the physical anatomy and biomechanics of male versus female. There's obviously some disadvantages there, but we're proud to have seen some females participate in the league, and we actually had hosted not too long ago. We had the female women's national team in the community as part of the Women's World Championship, and they had an exhibition game against a couple teams from the Maritime Hockey League.
Thank you. My other question actually has to do with the economics of it. Yeah. It's funny, the Valley Wren presentation had referenced that there was only a bed and breakfast in Berwick, and I was wondering if that hindered the ability to have events in Berwick. What kind of hotel accommodations would you need for these such events that you're talking about?
Yeah, I look at it more from a regional lens, and maybe I'm a little biased with the other hat I wear as the CEO of a regional service commission for municipalities, but for visitors that are coming to the region, I think they see it more as we're coming to the valley. We get to experience Berwick, Wolfville, Kentville, and all of it, and it's often the visitor that doesn't really recognize which geographical district they're in. They just want the full experience. So my suggestion, if these were opportunities that the group would want to pursue, they would do it as a regional effort and partner with your neighboring communities. And we encountered the same challenge in Campbellton for last year's draft. We filled hotels quite quickly, so we actually crossed the bridge into Quebec, had some sponsorship from those hotels, and we were down a little further south in the Dalhousie region as well. But collectively, they made up 600 or 700 accommodation opportunities. So I'm sure for this region, and I had the luxury of staying at the old O last night and loved every second of it. So I'm sure when you look at those assets and work together through collaboration, I think that's when these opportunities can. But I think if there's an area like Berwick that maybe doesn't have the same level of accommodations as a Wolfville or a Kentville, that doesn't mean you can't still pound the drum and be the leader to bring those groups together and collaborate on those assets. So,
Thank you.
Great.
Deputy Mayor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, first and foremost, I appreciate your approach today in identifying that it's not just about the sport. It's about actually producing and developing strong citizens who give back to communities. So thank you for that. I have to pose a question or I'll get in trouble with the mayor. So we would be remiss if we did not mention one of the most accomplished people who played with the Valley Wildcats. Is it true that Drake Batherson played with the Valley Wildcats?
It is,
That's
yeah.
my question.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that. 4 years? Okay, anyone else? Well, Matt, and Jesse, and Graham, thank you very much for taking your time to come and visit us today and do the presentation. We certainly appreciate it, and all the best in your future endeavors.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the summer and hope to see you at the rink this winter.
Okay, we have a motion that the Committee of the Whole receive for information the Maritime Hockey League presentation as provided on July 21st, 2026, I guess. Do we have a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Lutz. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Okay, motion carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is administration, and whoa, where are you going? This meeting's not over with yet, guys. Oh, wow. All right, municipal fire engagement session, what we've heard report. Lindsay Halliday, our community engagement specialist, presenting. So, Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, there it is. Okay. Good morning, Mayor and Council. So today I'm going to be presenting the Fire Services What We Heard report. So the Fire Services Engagement Session was held on April 16th, 2026, and provided members of the fire services community with the opportunity to provide feedback on the province's Nova Scotia Fire Services modernization recommendations. In total, 45 participants attended and participated in facilitated discussions exploring both opportunities and concerns associated with the proposed changes to fire services. Participants were asked to share their feedback on 5 topics. what outstanding questions remain for the province's recommendations, where they see fire services in the future, what should the province consider when implementing recommendations, and how municipal council can support local fire departments when considering the recommendations. Oh, sorry, I'm one slide behind. So from our conversations, 9 overarching themes emerged across all tables. Fire leadership expressed a desire to be actively and meaningfully involved in the future planning of fire services. Participants expressed concern that engagement from the province to date is limited and emphasized the importance of ongoing two-way dialogue. The second theme that emerged was sustainability. There is a concern amongst fire services membership that the volunteer model, which is already under strain, may become unsustainable with the increased workload. There are concerns about call complexity, time demands placed on volunteers, and service expectations impacting the ability to continue as a volunteer service. The third theme was recruitment and retention. So closely tied to sustainability, recruitment and retention emerged as a critical issue through all discussions. Fire services members expressed challenges around attracting new members, retaining experienced firefighters, and their worries that increased time commitments and expectations may limit people's willingness to volunteer for community firefighting. The next theme was financial clarity. So members expressed uncertainty around financial responsibility. The lack of clear funding frameworks may place additional strain on already stretched departments. They're seeking a clearer understanding of who will bear the cost, assurance that the municipalities and departments will be supported by the province, and they're asking for long-term sustainability, not short-term fixes. Additional themes were regarding the need for local voices and meaningful engagement. So members expressed concern that there was not enough local voices included in the initial engagement with the province. So this includes, oops, sorry, that's a duplicate slide. This includes ensuring that the province is reaching out to smaller and rural departments to ensure that all voices are included in the decisions. The second is support for chiefs and leadership. So chiefs were identified as carrying a growing burden, both operationally and administratively. Members highlighted the need for additional supports and resources, and for those making the recommendations to recognize the complexity of leadership roles, particularly in the rural areas. They've asked for realistic implementation and timelines. Many felt that timelines presented may not reflect the realities of the volunteer-based system, and that getting it right is more important than getting it done quickly. Attendees asked for a phased and realistic approach to implementation, time to adapt, train, and build capacity, and to avoid rushes or top-down changes. Again, the rural was a big theme across this, so they were concerned about a one-size-fits-all model that was heavily influenced by urban departments. So participants emphasized the unique situation of rural volunteer departments and the variability in capacity, geography, and call volume. So they've asked for flexibility and how standards are applied, and to really consider the community connection that is central to rural departments. One of the things that really emerged from this engagement session was that departments are open to change, and many concerns were highlighted and while many concerns were highlighted, they also expressed a willingness to involve and improve systems. The caveat for these changes is that they are given adequate funding and support to ensure success. And this includes meaningful engagement with rural communities and the expectations that are set for volunteer departments. In terms of what the participants wanted from council in terms of fire modernization, they were really positive about King's Council and the current level of support from both councils and the municipality, and they want to see King's be seen as a successful example of how fire services can be implemented. They're asking council to continue their conversations with local fire departments and to communicate additional information when it is received. So in conclusion, the message was clear. Fire leadership are committed to protecting their communities, but they're asking for clear direction, meaningful support, and a seat at the table as the future of fire services takes shape. So the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole receive for information the fire services what we heard report as presented.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any questions to Lindsay on her presentation? Councillor Sappington.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in a lot of circles where people are talking about volunteering, having volunteers in organizations as the solutions to problems. I was wondering, why does the fire service feel like they're struggling to get volunteers?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, some of the conversations that I had during that session was around not having necessarily clear recruitment guidelines. They did ask for support within the recommendations, if it can be considered, to have kind of a recruitment outline and how to get more people to come in. They are also experiencing kind of a limited influx of younger people coming into the fire department, and they're trying to find ways to mitigate that. And some of the departments did indicate that they would like to see things like the Young Firefighters program, where they can bring people in at a younger age and kind of start the recruitment process before they're even eligible to be a full-time firefighter. But it seems like there are a lot of challenges around getting the younger generations engaged in coming to the fire services. There were a lot of departments that indicated that a lot of their firefighters are aging out, and then not the same amount of people are coming in to replace those individuals.
Like, that's not fire hall specific? The concept of younger generation and volunteerism?
Yes, it is. Yes, I would say it is.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hiltz.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Thanks for the presentation. I have a lot of concerns about this. I've spoken at the FSAC about it. I've spoken with all the chiefs in the county, and I know, for example, like the Fire Commission, especially in like the Berwick area, I think 36 years in going. A lot of concerns there. There's a lot of overreach. I've spoken with a few MLAs about the same thing. I like the training idea, the standardized training, and recruitment with volunteers. It's, I mean, it's a issue I think everywhere to try to find those volunteers. But there is a feeling of government overreach, and the common thing I hear, Kings County is well known for mutual aid system. I was a member for years. My father was the fire chief, and a great model. Now, my concern is with Kings County. And I understand the province, you know, wanting to align things, but there's been a lot of changes in language, and I say this respectively to, you know, they had mutual, you know, they had, the language went from coordinator to chiefs, vice versa. I think it was kind of fast-tracked, kind of pushed on people, and people do feel offended by that, especially being volunteers. There are a lot of positives to it, but like I say, you know, I think like overall there's a lot of gaps missing here, and I think, and you had mentioned, Kings County truly is a model of what a volunteer fire department system should look like, with the mutual aid system, things like that. I did reach out, and I had asked, I felt that there wasn't a lot of transparency when it came to the questionnaires, when it came to the information shared. For example, it did show some information per county who participated in things, but I wanted more from that and was told that we weren't able to get that information. I find that hard to believe, respectfully, in 2026. But like I say, there are some good things with this, but there's a lot of, in my humble opinion, overreach, downloading to municipalities, and taking away from the firefighters themselves. And but I'm interested to see how this goes. And I do believe that the chiefs need more input. And also ladies auxiliaries, there's still a few should have input. And of course the commissions, there's just a lot of questions. And in this economic, these times, why, and respectively, why are we, this is going to cost money, and why are we doing that? Why such a big, why throw it out there so big when you can go one little step at a time? For instance, the training, the standardized training, especially with, the closure of Waverly. But like I say, I appreciate the presentation and the work that you're doing for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You still have a question, Councillor Gates?
I think Councillor Hiltz has covered a couple of questions that, other than one note that I was going to mention, is we've all gone through the past wildfires here in Nova Scotia. If we look what's happening across Canada with the wildfires and the ability to help other areas and to coordinate with other areas when help is required is a two-way system. And I just wanted to comment on, it's nice to see the cooperation amongst the different departments here in Nova Scotia. So that was the only other thing I was going to add. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a recommendation in front of you. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Hiltz. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Okay, motion carried. Our next item on the agenda under administration is proclamation requests for August 2026, and Charissa, our diversity specialist, will be presenting. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Corkum and Council. This morning I'm presenting 2 proclamation requests for August. These might sound familiar because last year this council did approve both proclamations for Emancipation Day and National Acadian Day. So the origin of these requests is within the strategy for belonging, as usual for proclamations. And the intent this morning is to present these proclamation requests to Committee of the Whole for consideration according to the proclamations policy. First, Emancipation Day. This commemorates the day that the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 came into effect across most of the British Empire, which was on August 1st of 1834. Although Canada is often thought of as a place of refuge for enslaved people, our country has a history of enslaving both African people and Indigenous peoples for over 250 years. It's important to note also that the Slavery Abolition Act only effectively freed children under 6 years old, while anyone over 6 years old were reclassified as apprentices or indentured servants, and their slave owners were financially compensated for losses. Black and Indigenous communities would continue fighting for freedom and equal rights for generations, and Emancipation Day honors the strength and perseverance of those who fought enslavement in the past and those who continue to advocate for racial equity and justice today. And the National Acadian Day has been celebrated since August 15th, 1881, which is about 120 years after the expulsion of the Acadians from what was called L'Acadie at the time. Acadians were permitted to return to Mi'kma'ki if they pledged allegiance to the British Crown and settled in small, isolated groups, which is why there are now distinct Francophone Acadian communities across the Maritime provinces. National Acadian Day is an invitation for everyone to learn about the unique Acadian culture shaped by the experiences of Acadian settlers and maintained by their descendants. There is a local event observing National Acadian Day at the Grand Prehistoric Site on August 15th. So through the strategy for belonging, the municipality is committed to relationship building with community, honoring the truth of shared history, promoting the diversity of the region, and supporting communities to tell their stories. Approval of these proclamations is a step towards the municipality's vision of being a community of communities where all people belong. There are no financial implications for this decision, and it aligns with the strategic plan under Strong Communities. Alternatively, Committee of the Whole may choose not to adopt one or both of these proclamations, but if approved, staff will publish the proclamations to the municipality's website and or social media. And staff will also engage by building awareness with the community for the approved proclamations. So that was short and sweet. The recommendations are that Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council to proclaim August 1st, 2026 as Emancipation Day across the municipality of the County of Kings. And second, that Committee of the Whole recommend that Municipal Council proclaim August 15th, 2026 as National Acadian Day across the municipality of the County of Kings. That's all I have. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions to Teresa? I got one question. On the second one, it says that we're proclaimed August 15th. This past weekend, I was at Grand Pré and spoke at the Acadian Days. So I find it a little bit confusing that here just this past week end, we had celebrated Acadian Days at Grand Pré, but we're going to proclaim August 15th as National Acadian Day. Can you tell me why we were celebrating last weekend, but it's not till August before it's going to be the special day?
Well, thanks for your question, Mayor. I can't answer that because I'm not sure what the events going on last weekend at Grand Pré National Historic Site were. August 15th has been consistent throughout the years. So, I mean, it's always nice to have more events to bring awareness to Acadian culture in the region. I understand how it can be a little confusing, so I'll look into that for next year and maybe link the two if that's possible.
But they were calling it Acadian Days, and they're even serving free hot dogs and hamburgers.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so can I get a mover for the first recommendation, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor McPherson, second by Councillor Hiltz. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. Now we have the second recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Lutz, second by Councillor Sappington. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is our Engineering and Public Works Policy EPW-04-015 Active Transportation Network Project Prioritization, and Ashley Brooker, our Trails, Parks, and Active Transportation Coordinator, will be presenting. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning to the rest of Council as well. The report before you in the following presentation relates to the municipality's policies for prioritization of new sidewalk and active transportation infrastructure within the municipality. Following the completion of Active Kings County, which is our active transportation plan, and throughout the presentation I may use the acronym of AT, which would stand for active transportation, Council adopted Policy EPW-04-015 to prioritize projects recommended within the AT plan itself, but also to assess new opportunities as they arose. The municipality also had a separate policy, EPW-04-014, for the prioritization of sidewalk constructions. And although these two policies had similar objectives, and considered many of the same factors, they utilized different scoring frameworks and created separate project lists. Staff identified the opportunity to align the policy so that sidewalks and other transportation infrastructure could be considered as a part of one connected network versus two separate priority lists together. The intent of the report in front of you in the presentation is for a committee of the whole to consider recommending to council a rename and amendment of policy EPW-04-015, active transportation project prioritization, and to repeal the policy EPW-04-014, sidewalk construction project prioritization. In doing so, this would create one consistent framework for determining project eligibility, identifying the appropriate type of infrastructure, and prioritizing future projects, looking at the overall network as a whole versus separate entities together. The proposed amendments to the policies are intended to reduce duplication, improve consistency, and provide council with a clearer framework for considering active transportation investments. The policy applies to new construction and network expansion, and it does not apply to routine maintenance, repair, or rehab of existing infrastructure. The policy also more clearly defines definitions, including active transportation infrastructure, sidewalk, and reaffirms our definitions of growth centers and school zones as well as it relates to the policies. It aligns project prioritization with the municipal planning strategy, Active Kings County, the strategic plan, our accessibility plan, and our strategy for belonging, as well as other council-approved documents and plans as they may arise. The updated policy also strengthens the role within the province. So this is important because many of our roads in places that might have active transportation enhancements on are provincially owned, and they may require additional provincial review, approval, and coordination. As mentioned, it does also streamline the process. So this new policy, it kind of breaks down a few different items, whereas first, before a project is formally scored, staff would complete a three-step review process. So the first step is to consider the eligibility. So staff will determine if the project is technically feasible and identify the applicable road authority, whether it be the municipality or the province. So the initial review may identify constraints such as right-of-way availability, property ownership, drainage, topography, and other road design requirements. And where a project has previously been determined as unfeasible or significant constraints remain unresolved, it would not be added to the prioritization list until those issues can be addressed. The next step would be to determine the infrastructure type. The project may be assessed as a sidewalk or as another form of active transportation. New sidewalks will only be considered in designated growth centers and school zones. This aligns with the municipal planning strategy, which identifies growth centers as priority locations for growth, increased density, infrastructure investment, and service delivery. So sidewalks may also be considered within school zones, subject to additional safety and site review and agreement with the applicable road authorities that oversee that section too. Where a sidewalk is not eligible or appropriate, the request may still be considered another type of active transportation. This could include a multi-use pathway, trail connection, paved shoulder, signed cycling routes, etc. Other active transportation infrastructure may be considered throughout the municipality, including inside and outside of growth centers. The final step would be a desktop review. So staff would complete a preliminary review of available information, including some of the items mentioned, like the topography, right-of-way, ownership, potential preliminary costs, and any potential construction constraints that could exist. So the purpose of this review is to not do a detailed or an engineering design, but it's intended to identify major limitations and ensure there's enough information to meaningfully compare the projects with the other priorities that exist. From there, once a project is deemed eligible, it will then go into a prioritization framework. So this is where there's some differences between the existing policy in terms of what is being scored. So there's a few considerations that staff will be scoring based off percentages. So the greatest weight within the framework is safety. So this may include traffic volumes, vehicle speeds, roadway conditions, collision information, other items that could be deemed as safety requirements. Another consideration will be the creation and the continuity of active transportation networks. So really trying to focus of where are we connecting people to as we look for these AT improvements throughout our communities, which could improve access to destinations such as schools, parks, trails, businesses, community facilities, taking an equitable approach of where do people need to get and also where would they like to get. The alignment with construction projects, that includes both municipal and provincial. So for an example, if there was major underground work happening with maybe some of our wastewater infrastructure upgrades, maybe that is our time to also do some active transportation upgrades at the same time. So when the road is kind of being rebuilt after that, we're able to make those amendments and adjustments at that time. Similarly, in alignment with provincial projects as well. So if you recall back in May when we took paved shoulders in alignment with provincial paving projects too. Affordability is then rated at 15%. So what, is there additional funding? What is the overall cost? Really trying to be mindful of budgetary items this way. Alignment with other municipal plans and priorities. So I did mention some of those earlier, including our strategy for belonging, accessibility plans, municipal planning strategy, etc. And another consideration given for population density. So are people going to be able to reasonably access these infrastructures? So should this policy be approved, all projects will be rescored under this framework. And the adoption of the policy does not mean that every project on the list will proceed immediately, because active transportation does tend to be quite expensive. So it is going to be a phased approach there. Projects will only move to design and construction when funding is approved by council, and part of this list will then go to inform the annual budget process. So that's how council will end up seeing the list. We'll be informing staff's requests within the annual budgeting process. So yep, that's pretty much what I just said there. Jumped ahead a little too soon. But one of the key things that we did want to say is that projects may be reconsidered when new information or changed circumstances become available. So that's one thing that staff kind of commit to, is reviewing things as circumstances change to review the scoring that was given on a particular project. There are no immediate capital expenditures resulting directly from the adoption of this policy, but as I just mentioned, the proposed policy establishes a process of annually preparing recommendations for council's considerations as a part of the budget deliberations. This project supports the strong communities pillar, and updates to the active transportation plan and a review of the policies was identified as a KPI within the strategic plan. And again, the policy supports the implementation of a variety of different projects and plans that we have already within the municipality. Oops. Alternatives, committee of the whole may refer the policy back to staff for further amendment, but any desired changes should be specified through a motion. Oops. Sorry. There was no new public engagement that was undertaken specifically for this policy amendment, but there was a variety of different engagement that happened during active Kings County, but also through the adoption of our municipal planning documents. And if council provides notice of intent to adopt this, there will be the required 7-day notice period, which will provide an opportunity for public comment as well. I do have 2 recommendations. I can read both, and then I can hand it back over to you, Mr. Mayor, if that works for you. So the first recommendation is that committee of the whole recommend municipal council provide 7 days notice per section 48(1) of the Municipal Government Act to rename and amend policy EPW 04-015 active transportation prioritization policy to policy EPW-04-015 active transportation network project prioritization. And the second recommendation is that committee of the whole recommend to the municipal council provide 7 days notice per section 48(1) of the Municipal Government Act to repeal policy EPW-04-014 sidewalk construction prioritization. And at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Ashley. Councillor Gates.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ashley. Great presentation, Ashley. Can you clarify for me with regards to the upkeep and maintenance of the trails? For example, if it snows, and who looks after any removal of that? And in the event of a major flood or issue, who looks after the repair of that trail in that area that might be affected? I'm wondering if you just clarify for me, if you would.
Sure. Specifically through the Harvest Moon Trail, we did tender our maintenance service contract, and that was awarded just this past June to a company called Berkshire, and they have a 3-year contract for us. We do not provide winter snow removal maintenance on the trail. We do recognize that there are other trail users that might choose to use the trail in terms of cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, so there's no snow removal trail maintenance that way in the winter. But should there be any danger trees that come down during that process, that's when we would look to operationalize some of our public works staff to help the removal of that. Or if it's too large outside of that scope, we do have some contractors that we can call to help support that as well. And to address your second question, with respect to any emergencies that could happen relating to flooding or storm damage, I believe that's what the second question was, Councillor Gates. Perfect. Within the tender that we did post, we did get non-routine quotes from that contractor, so we do have somebody in line to help support that.
Okay. Councillor Lutz.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Great presentation. Thank you. I always love to see work on AT happening in our county. But I have a question and a kind of a concern, and I'm wondering if we consider at all the municipal structure, like towns. We have obviously 3 towns here, and we have areas within the county that are just outside of towns, and we often see things like snow clearing and infrastructure development sort of end at these boundaries. And so is there any consideration, I know you've said we're prioritizing growth centers, but is there any consideration at all of the areas around towns that are within the county that are not in growth centers, that are often highly developed, and sort of, I think, accidentally punished when we prioritize growth centers over everywhere else? I think there's kind of a gap here. So is there any, I guess my first question is there any consideration in developing this about those areas just outside on the border of towns where we see, they may not be a growth center, but we see a lot of development there where their infrastructure needs are not being met, really?
Certainly. So certainly the connection piece would be part of those elements that we have that scoring criteria on. And if there is that connection, we do see towns as well as places where people either need to go or choose to go as well. So that is part of it. That would be included there. But is your question more so specifically to sidewalks or other AT infrastructure there?
It's more sidewalks.
More sidewalks based, yes. So certainly part of the reason why we do prioritize the sidewalk growth in growth centers is because that is for the municipal planning strategy where we want to see the growth and the investment. I will kind of pass it over to Director Jarvik if she has any other comments to add on that one, but
Director Jarvik.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, really I believe Ms. Brooker has covered it off. I think there would be probably 2 communities that come to mind based on your description, and neither of those currently really meet the definition. Well, one I would argue meets the definition of a growth center, but the other would not. So I think it is in keeping with our long-term goals to centralize that investment in our growth centers.
and if I may also add on to that is just because it might not be the sidewalk, that would be then eligible for another type of AT infrastructure, whether it be connecting pathways, trails, etc. So we do have some flexibility within the policy that way too.
Okay, it does answer my question. I do worry that we inadvertently miss communities that are developed right now that currently are not growth centers because we've prioritized them for agricultural use, but that doesn't, that doesn't mean they don't already have lots of people living there. We have agricultural areas, and I'm not sort of debating, I'm just making a point. We have agricultural areas that are highly developed now that just sort of have no access to the infrastructure that's required to support them. But we want to keep them not as growth centers because we want to protect the agricultural land. So I struggle with that a little bit. And I do have a second question around villages. And how do we account, and this is sidewalk heavy, how do we account for villages who are doing their own sidewalks? What does that communication process look like? Villages receive funding from us through the VICE program to do infrastructure. Did they have to consider our priorities when they're making their investments in their own infrastructure, and as a part of us awarding them money to complete these networks?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, that would certainly be a part of it, is that villages would be eligible for the VICE program, is my understanding of that. Certainly if Acting Director McKay has anything to add, I certainly welcome his input as well. But they would be subjected to items within our municipal service specification manual as well. But ultimately, our projects scored, it's not within our rights to then say, hey, here's our priority village, and then ask them to develop that. So our project scored will be relating to items within our jurisdiction that way. But certainly we welcome ongoing engagement with the villages to see where support can be provided, but generally it is through the VICE program that is happening.
Yeah, thank you. I like the policy, and I recognize it's hard to work within a bunch of different jurisdictions. And unfortunately, I think the way municipal government is structured currently with the villages and the towns and the county, we're doing things in a way that isn't comprehensive and could be done like so much better if the municipal boundaries were just easier to work within. Or anyway, but we're not going to solve that today. So appreciate your presentation, and thank you for answering my questions.
Councillor Sappington.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I too struggle with certain areas being left out because even though they might not be defined as a growth center, they do have a lot of tourism, and I am being constantly asked about the lack of sidewalks in those sort of tourism dense areas that are agriculture but just outside of towns. And so to limit it to growth centers, I am concerned. I almost feel like there should be an amendment of some sort. I also I also would like to know about the process in regards to the accessibility, only because I've seen some criticism in other municipalities where after the creation of active transportation, someone has tried to use that active living transportation area and then found it not accessible. So if you could give me peace of mind as to how we make it accessible so that we don't end up in that situation, I would love that. Thank you.
Certainly, through Mr. Mayor to the councillor, we work very closely with our accessibility coordinator, Katie MacArthur. She's such a fantastic resource that we're thrilled to have a part of our staff. And Katie's always very supportive of sharing standards that are provided by the province of Nova Scotia. So ultimately, we look to follow the provincial guidelines of what are recommended, and whether they become in legislation. That's not something that I'm 100% certain of to say right now, but we do utilize the support that we have internally and also the resources provided to us externally about what the accessibility standards and guidelines are. And then for any design of those projects, they would be factored into the design that we would have completed.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Great presentation, Ashley. I echo the words of Councillor Sappington and touch on Councillor Lutz as well, what she had said. I think it's a great policy, the change, but the excluding, I think, those rural areas from sidewalks. I know, for example, Highway 360 in Somerset, we can't control, of course, the shoulder of the road, but I would like to see some flexibility here and not just, eliminate those sidewalks from rural areas, because there are some little spots here and there. Now, you'd mentioned in the policy there could be some flexibility maybe there, or did I mishear you?
With respect to the school zone, so within the new definition, within the policy, how we define a school zone is based on the provincial regulations, definitions, and guidelines that have available. So that's where there could be some flexibility that remains. But also just because something might not be deemed as a sidewalk, it could be eligible for another active transportation infrastructure route that could, like I say, be a multi-use trail, pathway, something along those lines as well.
Okay. So, but could be.
It would depend on, right now, as it states, and this aligns also with the municipal planning strategy, is where this comes from, so that they're not accidentally conflicting each other, is that if it falls within a school zone, that's where a sidewalk could be considered, but also within a growth center. So it depends on where it falls within the school zone mapping, and it's a community by community, not necessarily a black and white answer.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sappington.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess this isn't the time. Thank you.
Pardon me?
I realized mine wasn't a question to the staff. Thank you.
Yeah, I've kind of given a little bit of leeway here, but to be honest with you, it's not up to us to debate with the staff, and at the end of the day, if you're not happy with the recommendation, maybe make a motion to table it and for further review or something else. It's up to us to ask the staff questions, and then once we get to the motion part, get into the debate. And we've been making some comments here, and I think it's kind of unfair to put the staff in that position. So I'm just saying. Councillor Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and maybe for later, but actually the Harvest Moon Trail, if I'm correct, coming into Port Williams across the dikes, is that part of the Harvest Moon Trail, the old railway track? Do you know what I mean, as you come down from the light on Highway 359?
The Harvest Moon Trail does intersect Highway 358 along the old rail line, but it doesn't go further than that linear parcel. It doesn't go out towards Port Williams.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
CAO Conrad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I'll give you a bit of an opinion, perhaps. So when this was in development, at least it's my belief that to the degree possible, we've introduced flexibility in rural zones through AT and school zones. To make anything above and beyond that, you would be contrary to the municipal planning strategy, which is another bylaw. So we, as Ms. Brooker has indicated, you don't want to be offside of a bylaw. And as we know around the table, to amend the municipal planning strategy this would probably consider to be one of the tenets. You know, our whole thing is structured around growth centers. That would trigger a whole series of meetings and ultimately resubmission to the province for approval. So that's, to the degree possible, is what I'm trying to say, is in rural areas, it's introduced through an AT as opposed to an AT or trail, as opposed to a sidewalk, and doing something in a school zone. Anyway, hope that helps.
Thank you for clarification. Councillor Lutz.
Thank you. This may be to the CAO as a question. The relationship, I guess this is what I think I need to be clarified on, is the relationship between the MGA, like the municipal planning strategy, and our bylaws and policies around infrastructure. So, like, that's where I'm not seeing, like, would there be flexibility within this policy to reference zones that are not identified in the MPS? Like, instead of saying, you know, growth centers, could we say growth centers and any area within 1 kilometer of a town boundary? Like, that's not in the MPS, the town boundary piece, but the growth center is. So where's what can you just like help me understand the relationship in referencing these areas? Do they have to be named in the MPS to be onside the policy? And I know I'm being stickler, and I'm sorry.
I'm going to go to the Director of Planning. She had her light on before the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the main gist of the discussion is the MPS is very specific that infrastructure, by a municipality supplying infrastructure, it's showing intent that that is where development should occur and that should correspond with our growth centers. So to start to go outside that growth center area with any kind of infrastructure, it is a change, and it is a change in philosophy, and that, you know, sure, we have sidewalks outside the growth centers currently, but that is an issue, and it starts to create pressures on you as council to make changes to other properties that are not zoned for development. So I think it starts that Pandora's box for us in a bigger way than just sidewalks when we can achieve that through AT.
That was extremely helpful. Thank you. You've closed the loop in my brain, and I appreciate that.
Councillor Sappington.
I have a question, only because during the Growing Greenwich initiative that we had, a lot of the questions and concerns of my community were around active living transportation and sidewalks. Is there any way that this could be rephrased so that it isn't specific to growth centers, but all areas that meet the requirements of a growth center?
If you're looking
Dr.
for a
Gabbard.
yes or no answer, sorry, through you to the councillor, no.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so we have two recommendations. The first recommendation, and so we'll read it again because it's been a while, that the Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council provide 7 days notice per S 48-1 Municipal Government Act to rename and amend Policy EPW-04-015 Active Transportation Project Prioritization to Policy EPW-04-015 Active Transportation Network Project Prioritization. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Peckford. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Thank you, Ashley. Motion carried. Okay. And the second motion, once we get her up here, that the Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council provide 7 days notice per S 48-1 Municipal Government Act to repeal Policy EPW-04-014 Sidewalk Construction Project Prioritization. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Sappington, second by Councillor Allen. Any further discussion? Councillor Allen. Okay, no problem. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. Okay. So, I think we've been at this for an hour and a half, so I'm going to call a 8-minute recess until 20 to 11. Yeah, I feel real bad about that.
I don't know about that. I mean, you do. We'll just get more leave than anybody else, that's all.
Can't deny that. All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order. And at this time, we'll be dealing with number 9, Financial Services Amendment to Bylaw 74, Treasurer. Madeline McCarran, our policy analyst, will be presenting. Good morning, Madeline.
Good morning, everyone. So, a little bit on the treasurer bylaw. So, right now it kind of exists to outline the roles and responsibility of the treasurer and to designate which employee position is the treasurer. And it's come forward as being a bit problematic, largely due to its age. It was last amended in 1994, which is actually prior to the enactment of the Municipal Government Act, which came in 1998. So most of the amendments have sprung from that. So the major one actually doesn't. The treasurer is designated to be the Director of Corporate Services, which is no longer a position that exists within the municipality. And it's now the Director of Finance and IT who's really the treasurer. And due to that misalignment in titles, sometimes while dealing with the CRA or the federal government in general surrounding grants, they've pushed back on signing. They want the Director of Corporate Services to be signing, but of course they can't do that because they don't exist in that way. So the major amendments have been made to remove the title, to allow for a bit more flexibility there, and then also to allow for delegation of treasurer duties if so ever it needed, like a specific one needed to go to a different person, or we don't have the Director of Finance available for whatever reason at that time, that everything can still flow smoothly. And then the rest of the changes are more so just to make everything in line and more modern. So references to that old legislation before the MGA has been taken out or replaced with the proper references to current legislation. Any duties that don't really map on to what is done today has been taken out. There was a few parts where it used gender language, so he, his, to refer to things more generally, and where that hasn't been removed for other reasons, it's been switched to gender-neutral alternatives, just to be more in modern practice. And then there was a few formatting changes made just to align more with what our bylaws look like today. So it's all just to make everything go a little more smoother and be a little more up to date to 2026. So it's recommended that the Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council give first reading to amend Bylaw 74, the Treasurer Bylaw, as detailed in the July 21st, 2026 request for decision.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Any questions to Madeline on the recommendation? No? All right. Somebody moved by Deputy Mayor McPherson, second by Councillor Gates. All those in favor or against, please signify accordingly. Motion carried. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is Planning and Inspections Amendment to Bylaw 90 Vendors. Trish Javik, our Director of Planning and Inspections, will be presenting. And good morning again, Trish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Council. Before you today is a request for Council to consider some amendments to the vendor's bylaw. In way of background, vendor's bylaw is not something that many of you have probably encountered. It's not a heavily used bylaw, but it has been on your books since 2007. Basically, the vendor's bylaw allows the municipality to regulate what properties qualify for a vendor, the conditions that must be met to get that license. It also outlines the appeal process that is available to an unsuccessful vendor, and it also allows the municipality to charge a fee for that license, and currently that fee is set at $500 per year. Again, just as reference, it's not a heavily used bylaw. On average, we issue 6 vendors licenses per year. Specifically, why are we here? Perry Rand Transportation Limited in May of this year requested that the municipality review the bylaw as they wanted to apply and receive a license to operate a vendor from their property on Highway 1 in Cambridge. The issue is that property is zoned M1, so light industrial, within the land use bylaw. Specifically, the M1 zone does not permit the commercial use of a restaurant. Why is that important? The current wording of the vendor's bylaw requires that, or only permits vendors to operate on properties that are zoned to allow, and it's worded oddly, such a commercial operation is permitted. So that's always been interpreted since 2007 is a food vendor or a food truck is basically a restaurant. Therefore, you need to be permitted on a property that permits that same use. The other 2 location requirements of the bylaw currently are that you have frontage on either an urban or rural collector road, and that your site design for the vendor does not interfere with the existing uses. So looking at the Perry Rand property, so this is just street view, the red arrow that I've added in shows roughly where they're proposing to put a vendor truck. It's a little hard to see, but technically it's behind those 2 trucks that you can see parked right below the point of my arrow. Clearly ample room on the property. Further to that, Perry Rand has also submitted a site plan showing that they are able to meet all the other requirements of the vendor bylaw in that they are not affecting the current operations on the property by getting this license to have a food truck on the property. So while you shouldn't change a bylaw because of one operation, staff did review and we took a look at all of the industrial zones within the county. And we are supporting this change, but at the same time, we're looking to take the opportunity to do some housekeeping amendments to the bylaw to allow for a better readability from both the public and the administrators, which are the development officers. The changes really can be summed up on this one slide. So we're looking to correct a typo in the enabling MGA reference. We've added some new definitions to clearly identify what is it that qualifies as a vendor. It may be confusing because I keep using the word vendor, but really we're talking about a food truck. We're also adding a definition to what is a community event, because the intent is not to try to regulate community events through the vendor's bylaw. It never has been the intent, but we're just clarifying that. The bylaw currently was a bit cumbersome to determine what do you need to submit, who qualifies. So we've streamlined that submission requirement into one section just to make it a little bit easier for the applicant as well as the reviewing body of the development officer. One interesting thing is we're suggesting that we remove the requirement of getting a letter from the village should the property be located within the village. That recommendation is based on just our past experience since, the past 19 years. When we get a request and it happens to be in the village, because the bylaw only requires a comment, not approval, not a refusal, it creates an odd conversation with both the applicant as well as the villages. So we've removed that requirement to get that letter of comment. And finally, the other big change is removing the requirement to abut a collector road. We believe just relying on either a commercial or industrial zone and the placement of those zones within the municipality is enough. The bylaw also requires access permits from the road authority, so that's also addressed. If the road authority does not grant an access approval for the vendor, a license doesn't get issued. So we feel that that's covered off already. Minor change, the current bylaw has a 15-day appeal period. We're recommending 14. That just keeps it in line with all the other appeal periods that we typically deal with that come to council, so variances and site plan. And finally, we clarified that vendors are not permitted to connect to municipal, whether that's a village or ours, water and sewer services. They need to not just get a fire inspection, but they need to pass a fire inspection. And we, again, are recommending that industrial zones be added to those properties that qualify to apply. So before you is a recommendation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. And you're recommending this?
I am.
Thank you. Councillor Gates.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, Trish. Is it harder to change the bylaw, or is it easier to add an addendum to the bylaw to allow it? I'm curious if the other side of the coin, rather than changing the bylaw, is it easier to add an addendum to allow?
I think technically adding an addendum is an amendment anyway. And again, this is a good opportunity to clean up that bylaw on other fronts, not just the initial ask by the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council give first reading to amend the vendor bylaw 90 as appended to July 21st, 2026 request for decision. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Best, second by Councillor Allen. Any further discussion? All those in favor or against signify the usual manner. Motion carried. Thank you. We'll be up for our lobster rolls this afternoon. Board and committee reports. Is there any verbal reports from members of council? No? Okay. Is there any external boards and committee reports from members of council? No? Councillor Lutz.
Thank you, Mayor. I think most people had heard by now the library board met last Monday regarding the extension of the library services until September 30th, and that request is not here to be debated today, but that there will be a request forthcoming for the same that was received in the past. The library board also committed $88,000 from the reserves to extend the service for the 2.5 months, and we'll be left with a reserve of about $80,000. So just for your awareness, happy to answer any questions. There was lots of coverage about it, so you probably already saw the news reports, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, Councillor Best.
Thank you. Just I heard through the grapevine that Lawrencetown is pulling out and going to do their own, and that's the same as Canning has already been that way. Is there ever, maybe this is not the time, but is there ever a talk about maybe everybody pull out and do their own thing and get rid of the board? Is there ever a talk about that? Or maybe that's not the time to do it. Maybe wait till the presentation next week.
Councillor Lutz.
I mean, I can respond and just say that that was never a discussion at the board level, obviously. I think the board sees the value in being able to share books between all the different branches, and then, of course, not just between the branches of the AVRL, but across the province. So, you know, we often get books from, or not just books, resources from Cape Breton and Cumberland and South Shore. And so we're part of a really nice interconnected system. And the feasibility of having every branch run on volunteers, you know, there's not a lot of, it can happen, it can be done, but that's not a model the board has been looking at, no.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so any other? No? All right, so the committee of the whole, we have a recommendation. Committee of the whole received the board and committee reports as provided verbally for information. Do I have a mover? Mover by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Sappington. Any further discussion? All those, did I say Allen? Harding, sorry. Without the glasses, you look a lot alike. You know? I couldn't help it. I'll get paid back later, right? All right. Moved by Councillor Harding, second by Councillor Sappington. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Don't you laugh. You resemble those remarks with us, too. Oh, God. I voted in favor. Myself all shook up here. All right. All right. We'll move on to other business. Is there any other business? Councillor Best.
Thank you, Mayor. Through to CEO. We had a conversation before. I think it would really help myself if we had a once a month have a report on the sewer in New Minas, how that going, and also the new rec facility. If we could get some information once a month on that.
In fact, Councillor, all those reports do come after the committee reports. So whenever after the committee's report as met, you get a report. The rec committee, for example, doesn't meet every month. Okay. All right. Any other business? Okay. Comments from the public. It's now time for the public, if they wish to address council, to have 2 minutes to speak. We would ask them to give their name, address, and be respectful. Going once, going twice, gone. Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Sappington. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Okay, motion to adjourn approved. I presume, Councillor Best, you voted in favor. Okay, so now we're going to move into special council meeting. And I would declare that all councilors are present and accounted for. I'll now read the land acknowledgement that the municipality of the County of Kings is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral, unceded, and current territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. The municipality of the County of Kings is a neighbor to Annapolis Valley First Nation and Glooscap First Nation, as well as a diverse urban and rural indigenous population. We are all treaty people and commit to upholding the peace and friendship treaties and working towards reconciliation in all areas of the municipality. We have an agenda in front of you. Is there any additions anyone would like to make to the agenda? Note that we do have an in-camera session on the agenda. Is there any counselor that would like to declare a conflict of interest on any of the agenda items? Okay, recommendations from Committee of the Whole 2126. We will deal with the recommendations as passed by the committee. There's Proclamation. There's two motions that Municipal Council proclaim August 1st, 2026 as I'm having trouble with that. Who can handle that? Emancipation. Thank you. I knew we got you here for something. Holy love day. Across the municipality of the County of Kings. All right. So, moved by Councillor Allen, second by Deputy Mayor McPherson. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Emancipation. God, I'll tell you. All right, motion carried. Thank you, Terry. All right, the second one, that the municipal council, this one hopefully is a, what? No, that's the old one, isn't it? That's the one we just did. Yeah. You just wanted to see if I could pronounce it again, didn't you? That the municipal council proclaimed August 15th, 2026 as Acadian Days in the municipality of the County of Kings. It's moved by Councillor Sappington, second by Councillor Lutz. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. I remembered anyway. National. That's. I thought I did pretty good. Huh? So, especially after I butchered the first one. All right, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to 4B, policy update, EPW-04-015, active transportation network prioritization. That the municipal government council provides 7 days notice per S48-1 Municipal Government Act to rename and amend policy EPW-04-015 active transportation project prioritization to policy EPW-04-015 active transportation network project prioritization. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Hill. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. Okay, number 4C, amendments to bylaw 74 treasurer, first reading. That municipal council give first reading to amend bylaw 74, the treasurer bylaw as detailed in July 21st, 2026. Request for a decision. Moved by Councilor Sappington, second by Councilor Lutz. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. And the last one, 4D, amendments to bylaw 90 vendors, first reading. That municipal council give first reading to amend the vendors bylaw 90 as appended to the July 21st, 2026 request for a decision. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Deputy Mayor McPherson, second by Councilor Hiltz. Any further discussion? All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. And we can move on from 5, comments from the public, as we have no member of the public here. So, I would like now to have a motion to go into a closed session, please. Moved by Councilor Best, second by Councilor Hill, Councilor Allen. Gee, man. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. need to approve this here. It says here, return to public session for a motion. Is the only motion to adjourn, or is there other motions? You guys are all playing with me today, aren't you, huh? I can't believe you, Andrea. I mean, I know, Scott and rest. All right, I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Peckford. All to adjourn. All those in favor or against, please vote accordingly. Motion carried. Councillor Gates was the only one against it. Can you imagine the guy makes the motion, didn't even vote? What's the matter with you?